Three chilling true stories are presented, each detailing a person's unsettling encounter with their own doppelganger. You'll be left wondering if these stories are simply strange coincidences or if something more sinister is at play.
It was a chilly October afternoon in downtown Chicago when Aaron Moore saw himself. He had taken the day off work to visit a local book fair near Grant Park. The streets were bustling food trucks, lined sidewalks. Couples strolled with hot drinks, and music echoed from a nearby speaker stand. Pleron moved slowly through the crowd, sipping his coffee, taking it all in, when he suddenly stopped dead in his tracks. There, across the Fountain Plaza, stood a man in a navy pea coat and maroon scarf. His coat, his scarf, even the jeans, the tan boots. But it wasn't the clothes that paralyzed Aaron. It was the face. The man had his face. Same jawline, same short black hair, same scar above the left eyebrow from a childhood bike accident. He wasn't just similar, he was identical. Aaron's pulse quickened. He squinted, thinking maybe it was a mirror trick, a strange coincidence, some social media stunt. But then the man turned his head, locking eyes with him from across the crowd, and smiled. Not a friendly smile, not surprised, not confused. It was a knowing, patient smile. Aaron instinctively took a step forward, but in that moment, a group of tourists walked between them. When they passed, the man was gone. Aaron rushed toward where he'd seen him pushing past people, scanning the crowd. Nothing. He checked down the side street, looked behind vendor booths, even ran up the steps of the museum nearby for a better view. Still nothing. That night, Aaron couldn't sleep. He kept replaying it over and over, how that face looked so calm, almost like it had been waiting to be noticed. He tried to tell himself it was just someone who looked eerily similar, that his mind had exaggerated the resemblance, but deep down, something twisted in his gut said otherwise. The next few days were worse. He began to feel watched in the train, in the elevator, even from his apartment window. Not constantly, just enough to unsettle him. Sometimes he thought he caught a glimpse of that familiar coat in a passing train car, or a reflection that lingered longer than it should have. Once, on his way home, he turned a corner and swore he saw himself vanish into a crowd, same stride, same posture, same way of glancing over his shoulder without moving his head. But every time he tried to catch up, the figure was gone. Aaron doesn't go to crowded places anymore. He avoids mirrors too, just in case he sees that face staring back, but not moving in sync. He doesn't know what it was, a hallucination, a stalker, a cosmic error, or maybe something older, something that exists in places we don't understand, echo of ourselves, slipped through some unseen crack. Whatever it was, Aaron knows one thing for certain. It saw him first, and it wanted him to know. It was a quiet Sunday morning when the Barrett family saw something that would change the way they looked at each other forever. The family of Fortum, his wife, Linda, and their 2 kids. Alex and Sophia gathered in their cozy country home on the outskirts of Helena, Montana, for breakfast. The kitchen smelled of pancakes and maple syrup, and the soft hum of music filled the air. As sunlight poured through the windows, everything was normal until Sophie walked in. Except Sophie was already sitting at the table. Tom noticed it first. He blinked hard, staring at his daughter, who was giggling at something her brother said. Then he looked at the hallway, where a second Sophie, dressed in the same pink pajamas, with the same braided hair, stood frozen with wide eyes. Oh! Linda turned next and gasped. Alex's fork dropped onto his plate. For a moment, time seemed to stretch. The two Sophies stared at each other, identical in every chipped front tooth, even the tiny scar on her left hand. Then, the one in the hallway turned and ran upstairs. Pam puffed after her, taking the steps two at a time. He checked every room, every closet. Nothing. The real Sophia. Least be believed. She was sat at the table, pale and confused, whispering, "Who was that?" That was the beginning. Over the following weeks, the Barretts began experiencing strange encounters. Tom would walk into the garage and see himself tinkering with tools only to realize he'd never gone in. Linda caught glimpses of another, her standing in the garden, motionless. Alex said he saw a second version of his mom standing outside his bedroom window at night, watching him without blinking. They tried to rationalize it. Stress, sleep, deprivation, maybe even carbon monoxide poisoning. Doctors found nothing. And every camera they set up either glitched or showed nothing at all. Then came the night when all four of them heard footsteps in the hallway. Soft, slow, deliberate. They gathered in the living room, each holding something: flashlights, fireplace, tools, even a kitchen knife. When Tom swung the door open to confront whatever it was, the hallway was empty, but their bedroom lights were on, and inside were four people, standing in total silence, identical to them. Same clothes, same faces, but their expressions were hollow, unfeeling. Their eyes didn't blink. They didn't move. Tom shouted, "Bye." The doubles simply stood there, watching. Then, one by one, they turned, walked into the darkness and vanished. The Barretts never spoke of that night to outsiders. Bye. They moved within the month, leaving behind the only home their children had ever known. They never saw the doppelgängers again, but the emotional wounds never healed. Sophie had nightmares for years always of someone who looked like her, whispering secrets only she could hear. Linda stopped planting flowers, afraid she might see herself in the garden again. Tom couldn't look into a mirror without feeling watched. And Alex, he refuses to keep photos of the family in his house. He says he's afraid they might change when he's not looking. The Barretts still don't know what those things were. Spirits, alternate selves, some broken reflection from another place. But they know one thing. Whatever they were, they knew them. And they were waiting. It was a quiet Tuesday evening in Asheville when Diana first noticed something strange in her bathroom mirror. She had just stepped out of the shower, wrapped in her favorite gray robe, the one with soft fleece lining. The air was foggy, the mirror clouded with condensation. Yet something about her reflection pulled her gaze like a magnet. She wiped the glass with her hand, but instead of seeing herself exactly, she froze. The woman in the mirror looked like her soprano eyes. Same sharp cheekbones. Same slightly upturned nose, but the reflection was a half-second out of sync. When Diana tilted her head to the left, the reflection followed just a fraction of a beat too late. She blinked, rubbed her eyes, blamed the steam, the lighting. But then the reflection smiled. Diana hadn't. Her breath caught in her throat. She leaned closer, staring into her own eyes, or what should have been her own eyes, but something behind them was wrong. They were colder, emptier, as if some distant stranger had borrowed her face. She stepped back in fear, and so did the reflection, but too smoothly this time, like it had anticipated her move rather than mirrored it. The room grew colder. Over the next few days, she tried to forget it. She avoided looking too long into any reflective surface. She covered mirrors with sheets, but no matter where she was in the hallway, the kitchen, even the back of a spoon she'd catch flickers of that other version of herself, smiling, watching, waiting. She confided in a friend once. They dismissed it as stress, maybe grief from her recent breakup. Diana tried to believe them, until one night she caught a reflection walking away from the mirror while she stood still. She screamed. Neighbors said they heard something like glass breaking, a loud thud, then silent. When Diana's sister arrived the next day, she found the bathroom door locked. Inside, everything was untouched. No sign of forced entry. No blood. No Diana. Only a massive crack down the middle of the bathroom mirror, as if something had forced its way through. And in the reflection, just for a second, her sister swore she saw Diana's face smiling back only. This Diana had jet black eyes, and a wide, unnatural grin that stretched beyond what any human mouth could manage. Diana was never found, but in Asheville, locals still whisper about the woman in the mirror. Some say her reflection watches from behind the glass, looking for someone new. Others claim if you stand long enough in the dark and stare into your mirror, you might see her too. And maybe, just maybe, she'll see you.